The most important player at Real Madrid isn't who you think it is. It's not Kylian Mbappe, it's not Vinicius Jr., it's not Jude Bellingham. It's the man head coach Carlo Ancelotti refers to as the most complete player in football. Federico Valverde. He's been a mainstay for the Real Madrid team so far, but the big question is, what makes him so good? And how has he become that important to this Real Madrid team?
In the case of Valverde, Real Madrid would have been out there till midnight and Fede Valverde will still be going back and forth.
It's exactly what you want as a teammate.
And back and so can win balls in the midfield, can support in the attack, but can also come back and defend. Fede Valverde is a dream for any manager. Again, it's a dream for Carlo Ancelotti because I can put this guy anywhere and I know he's going to cover a space. I know he's going to cover a hole.
Before we get into any of that though, hit that subscribe button to Football Historia if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on action like this. Underrated. That used to be the word with Federico Valverde, but as the seasons have progressed into the present day, it doesn't feel like that anymore, because if anything, the football world is getting to realize just how good this guy is. Something a couple of people have known already. Let's go back to what Ale Moreno said in the beginning, in trying to understand what makes Valverde so good. We've got to look at what he brings to the table, because it's something, or some things, that easily goes under the radar. The first one has got to be his energy. Federico Valverde is a tank. Here's an example. In Real Madrid's comeback win over Chelsea on their way to winning the Champions League in 2022, Federico Valverde covered a 14-kilometer distance against the Blues at the Bernabeu. For context, the average footballer completes between 9 and 10 kilometers per game. He's still maintaining the same levels currently at the club. When you talk about energy, players full of running and the tank to last for as long as needed, Valverde is one of the first names on the list. Still, this alone isn't the only thing that's made him become a mainstay in this Real Madrid team. I mean, if it was simply running alone, he'd be a South American version of Conor Gallagher. So what else does Valverde bring to the table then? Versatility. You'll struggle to put Valverde into words, just like this dude here.
Whether he drops in, whether he pushes forward, he can be a right winger, a right back.
Yeah.
He's the army, like the Swiss Army knife in many regards. He can just do everything. He's got the whole package.
I think I like the term Swiss Army knife, and that's because it goes to show just how versatile Valverde is. You could easily say he's the best box-to-box midfielder in the world, and that's because, going back to the first point earlier, he has the energy to be both at the top of his game defensively and offensively as well. The thing with this is that most midfielders, they're always either good at one thing. In that Madrid team, for example, players like Luka Modric and Arda Güler are rather suited to the offensive aspect of the game, while players like Eduardo Camavinga and Aurelien Tchouameni do the defensive work. With Federico Valverde, however, he swings both ways. When I say he's versatile, this is no lie. I mean, get this, he's being mentioned in the same breath as Cafu for being a potentially good right back. The guy's a midfielder. It's in the same way Valverde can also play right wing, or any position on either side. He can play left back, basically anywhere you want him to on the pitch.
Seguramente el jugador más completo en este momento en el fútbol.
Roughly translated to English here, this is Ancelotti praising Valverde as being the most complete player on the team with a lot of abilities, and being able to slot in anywhere on the pitch. Valverde being versatile goes more than just being a trait now. It's been very beneficial to this Real Madrid team, particularly this season. The injuries the team has suffered, particularly in defense, they've been at crucial moments too. The likes of Eder Militao and Dani Carvajal are still out with long-term ACL injuries. At some point, Lucas Vázquez, the backup option at right back, got injured too. Go to the midfield where Valverde operates, and players like Aurelien Tchouameni, Eduardo Camavinga and Luka Modric. All these guys have suffered injuries at some point in the season so far. The point with this is that every time there's been an injury in any of these positions, Valverde has been an option to put in a steady job in there. From the position he primarily plays in midfield to helping out in defense and attack, he's been more than just a helping hand this season. He's been a team player. It will be impossible to talk about Federico Valverde without talking about his ability to hit bangers. I mean, seriously. I could have based this entire video on Valverde hitting power shots alone. And that's because of how cleanly he strikes the ball. It's almost second to none sometimes. So far, we've based the video on Valverde under Ancelotti. But you see guys, to truly understand just how good he is, and how he's gotten to this point now, we've got to go back a bit. In the 2018-19 and 2019-20 seasons, his first two at the club, Valverde was still finding his way into the team. He played under Zinedine Zidane as Real Madrid's head coach in 1920, and at the time, very few would have been able to predict just how good he'd turn out to be. The reason was simple. Valverde played a deeper role for the team, particularly in the 2019-20 season. This wasn't because of a lack of quality, rather Valverde was playing in a Real Madrid team that had the likes of Toni Kroos and Luka Modric as the two central midfielders, with Casemiro playing deep. It's also very important to understand, which we will get to, that Valverde is a unique talent. He wasn't as technical as the likes of Kroos and Modric, not the best ball carrier or gracious on the ball. I mean, if you look at him running with the ball compared to the two guys mentioned earlier, it's almost as if he's in danger of losing it at any moment. Still, his ability to become an effective ball winner allowed him to get into the makeup of Zidane's Madrid team, and so more often than not, he began to play in the Casemiro position, the screen behind the attack and in front of the defense. The numbers back it up too. He had 1.95 progressive ball carries in the 2019-20 season, 0.92 take-ons, 1.83 tackles per 90, and 1.23 interceptions per 90. These are the base numbers Valverde was putting up in his first season under Zidane. The second one, though, in 2020-21 brought a shift. After COVID, Zidane realized the energy levels of Valverde were abnormal. He had crazy running speed and could cover distance fast. So what did he do? He made the tactical switch that saw Valverde begin to play out wide for the team, particularly on the right. The take-ons from 0.92 in 2020, that figure now stood at 1.58 in 2020-21. Progressive carry numbers went up to 2.77 per 90, long passes completed hit an all-time high of 4.36 per 90, an 80.7% completion rate. And the reason this is getting included is that down that right wing slot, Valverde's game was simple: beat the man and look to put the ball in. Then again, it all changed in the 2021-22 season, and that's the Valverde we're seeing to date. When Carlo Ancelotti arrived, he didn't change what Zidane had started with Valverde, rather he just improved it. Ancelotti had Valverde playing in midfield again, only this time Valverde, under the Italian, has become a combination of all his key attributes into one. So here's how it works. In possession, or when the team is on the attack, Valverde takes the false right-back role to cover the space the right-back leaves, usually Dani Carvajal or Lucas Vazquez. That's Ancelotti utilizing his recovery speed and running power to full effect. This doesn't take anything away from his game because, again, as we've seen from the man, he can strike a ball properly from midfield. And so in turn, Ancelotti keeping him in that false right-back position to cover also means that anything outside the box, or the ball popping up in a position to shoot, Valverde will be in close range. And once he has the target locked in, the end product is usually dangerous. If he's not scoring, he can provide an assist too. The assist for Vinicius Jr. in the Champions League final of 2022 sums this up. Look at that position from where he takes the ball up. Imagine the ball doesn't go in, or Liverpool somehow wins possession in that sequence and starts their attack. He's in a position where his pace can help the team defensively and can transition offensively too. The reason I highlighted his progress from his early days at the club under Zidane to him currently under Ancelotti is to show he has tactically evolved. From a player with loads of energy being used in deeper positions, or with the main aim of being an extra leg in midfield, Valverde hasn't had to change his game. He hasn't had to become a version of what existed, say a Luka Modric or a Toni Kroos. Rather, he's become Federico Valverde, a high-intensity, relentless machine in midfield that chases every ball and is versatile to play in any position. So far, we've been looking at Valverde's progression on the physical aspect of the game. But what if I told you he's also had to put in the mental work to become this good now? There are stories of what Valverde was when he was younger, and again, none of them exactly predicted a superstar in the making.
I do think that Fede has showed me something this season that I'm not sure if I truly believed he had deep down.
Not just this guy, but you also had people like Chueco Perdomo, Valverde's coach at the grassroots level, also doubting Valverde's abilities. Perdomo even once famously said that Valverde's biggest problem was that he simply didn't want to run. It's hard to believe now, but that was the case. Valverde did put in the hard yards, and this eventually got him a move to Real Madrid. It's at Los Blancos that the entire world got to find out just how tough this kid is mentally. Imagine coming to a team where you've got Modric, Kroos and Casemiro as the midfield trio. the three that won the three-peat from 2016 to 2018. That was Valverde's reality, and even as a young kid then, potentially getting minutes would have been very hard to come by. Most players in his position would have either opted for a loan move away from the club or found an excuse to get playing time. Valverde? He stuck around, learned from the best, and took hits of each to add to his game. He somehow managed to get even better, and he only continued to grow. Valverde has become a leader now, and that's saying something. In this Real Madrid team, with all the superstars they've got, while he might not match up to them in terms of technical ability, I'm not saying his technique is bad, but compared to the players on the team, what Valverde brings is heart. He brings the same to the Uruguayan national team too. I mean, it's a testament to the fact that at 26, he's already captain of the national team. That says a lot about his leadership abilities and how much of a force he's become for both club and country. The crazy thing is, in all of this, we're dealing with a player who should still improve in the future. He's 26. He's still got the best years of his career ahead of him, and that says a lot. Toni Kroos' successor. Not necessarily because of the playing style, but what he brings to the team. Real Madrid has had a rich history of midfield options in the past, the likes of Zinedine Zidane, Modric, Kroos, Makelele, and the truth is, if Valverde keeps up his current rate, he could be one of these names in a couple of years. Coming back to the 2024-25 season now, Valverde has had his fair share of responsibilities with the team. He's one of the captains of the team now, and in midfield, the guy who has had to step up on multiple occasions. Kroos gone, Luka Modric in the twilight of his career, and at the heart of that team, Valverde has become the engine room. Even when the team plays badly, he's been so good that if there's going to be a standout or an exemption in terms of individual performances, it's more often than not him. Take, for example, Real Madrid's 5-2 defeat to Barcelona in the final of the Spanish Super Cup. They had a horror show collectively, but yet Valverde was one of the better players for Madrid on the night, as has been the case for years. He has a contract that runs until 2029, so at least until that period, he's a Real Madrid player. And let's face facts, unless something drastic happens, Valverde will be at the club for possibly more years to come.
Fede Valverde or Frankie de Jong?
I'm gonna go slightly Frankie de Jong.
It's funny how football works. This was over 5 years ago, and at the time, the difference was clear. Valverde was still in and out of the Madrid team, while Frankie de Jong was already being touted as one of the best young midfielders in the world. Fast forward to 5 years later, and Frankie de Jong hasn't been the same ever since this tackle. Classic Valverde, going into everything full on and committing to the tackle. It would be impossible to run a list of the best midfielders in the world now without including Valverde's name, and that's a testament to the fact that his hard work and determination have gotten him to this point. There was even talk of Valverde leaving in the summer of 2023 after Jude Bellingham arrived, because the big question was who would fit into the midfield three and who gets dropped. Valverde found his way into Ancelotti's new system and became a part of it. Judging from this, I guess it's safe to say the two get along just fine. There should be no doubt after watching this that Federico Valverde's story at Real Madrid is that of pure grit and determination. Considering what he was when he started his career, he wasn't projected to go far, got into a team that had three of the world's best in the position he played in, and yet he's not only established himself as a first-team regular, he's also become one of the captains of Real Madrid, the most successful club in European football history. I want to argue with this, that there's no club or no team that Valverde wouldn't get into, but I can't, and that's because of these guys. Over at Barcelona, they're building something special, and particularly in midfield, they've got 1/3 of a trio that's on his way to establishing himself as one of the best young talents in the world. Want to find out how good Gavi is? It's all in the next video.